Alright, so welcome back to Provoke Designs. Another RC video. I promise I've got a Sora one coming up. It's been a long time coming, but another RC video. Just to go through kind of what I learned really as a newbie, which is a case of what would you pick as a newbie? Do you pick four-wheel drive or do you pick two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive? Okay, so let's get into this. The main part of this is the fact that as a newbie starting off, you're not going to want to spend tons and tons of money. I definitely didn't. I just wanted to see if I was into it, see if I'd have fun with it, and see if I wanted to invest more with it. And with that came the idea of buying the FTX Bonsai. I've already done a review video of the FTX Bonsai versus the Maverick Strada. So if you're kind of picking between those two, then you're probably better off watching that video. But a lot of people, especially if you join a lot of Facebook groups, they'll tell you, you know, they're just car park smashers, don't waste your money, and go and buy something rear-wheel drive, save your money and buy something rear-wheel drive to start yourself off. And I was a bit of a skeptic of that. I kind of felt that a lot of things you get into, people will tell you to spend more and more money. But I wanted to sort of experience it for myself. So I went out and bought the Bonsai. Okay, so let's have a look at the Bonsai first, and then I'll tell you kind of pros and cons about it. So the Bonsai, when it arrives, actually comes with a way different shell to this, and there's many reviews on it. It looks a bit like this, but I repainted mine and vertex ridged it and stuff like that, because that's kind of what I mess around with. It's mainly an outdoor chassis. People can use them indoors. If you use them on hardwood floors and things, they're quite good, but on carpet they're way too fast, way too grippy. I've modified mine a little bit, but mainly it's still a brushed car, and with that, you know, comes obviously a few different issues that you'd associate with being brushed. You could convert it to brushless, people do, but it's mainly about the way they drive, and it's mainly about what you'd want out of your car. So the Bonsai itself is a great little car. We've absolutely smashed the hell out of them. My mate Dave often jumps his off curbs and off the sort of 2 foot high stage. Back it up, back it in. Ready? Go that way. And we have a good giggle with them because they really are absolute riots to drive and mess around with and have fun with. So especially if you're young and you're learning, RC as well at the same time, I think they're definitely a good car to buy, a good car to smash around with and have really good fun with. We've had some good sessions in car parks with us and our mates, hanging out and just setting out a load of cones and just smashing them around and having good fun. But as you can see from some of the clips, which I'll show you in a minute, they're kind of four-wheel drive rally cars really. They do sort of power slides all the time rather than actually drifting more like a realistic drift car. So if you're into actual road car drifting, watching things like, you know, European Drift Masters and stuff like that, then you're probably going to want something that's rear-wheel drive, but we'll go through that in a moment. You can see, I mean, I've messed around with mine to try and get more lock. I've actually come back from trying to get loads of lock and gone back to just pretty much normal amounts of lock. You'll find as a four-wheel drive car that the lock isn't hugely important. It's a bit about throttle control and keep punching it, and like I tend to find I pulse the throttle a lot to keep sort of knocking it around and keep it sliding through bends. But generally they wash out a lot. They just keep sliding and wash out and won't really follow a line very well. But then that's part of it. It's just a car park smasher. It's good fun. So you can modify them. You can buy lots of parts for them. This and the Maverick, you can buy aluminium parts for them, you can buy carbon fibre parts for them, you could upgrade them to brushless, you can mess around with it. Starting price of one of these is about £100 to £130. If you start buying all the kit, because that's ready to run right there with the controller and so on, although I've pimped my controller a little bit with carbon wrap bits and stuff, but that's the kind of controller you get. Again, watch the other video with FTX versus Maverick if you're thinking about it, but don't be thinking this is a car that you can take to indoor circuits and that you can take to your local community centre and rent out a hall or a carpeted room to have a go with. I think I've got some video somewhere of carpet. If I have, I'll insert it here. you'll see what I mean. They're incredibly fast and really hard to actually make slide. You have to really provoke a slide when you're on carpet, because of the fact that four-wheel drive just keeps pulling you forwards rather than making it slide. So if I can find it, here's a little clip.
I think we've lost the ability to drive up with the concentration out the window. Yeah. Mine's alright, mate. What is this? A ball car? Sorry.
If I can't find it, then we'll carry on. You can trust me on that one. They're a bit bonkers on carpet. So with that in mind, you know, great little fun, great thing to do, but don't be thinking you're going to go to indoor circuits, because a lot of indoor circuits don't allow four-wheel drive. Some do, but I think when you'll find when you get there, compared to all the rear-wheel drive cars, you won't be able to drive on the circuit at the same time, really. You'll be either way faster than them and more out of control, or you'll drive very, very differently around the circuit, so you won't be able to get into anything like twinning practicing or anything like that. So as a good introduction to RC and a good introduction to car park smashing, definitely fantastic fun, and I would not write them off in the slightest. But I think they have their limit if you are going to continue down the rabbit hole that is RC drifting. So then onto a rear-wheel drive car. This is my Sakura D4. You have to ignore my magnetic shell, it's quite hard to get off. As if by YouTube magic it's come off. It's because I've got the magnets facing backwards and it gets hooked kind of under the spoiler on this like lip bit. Anyway, this is a rear-wheel drive car. So rear-wheel drive cars in general run much more lock. You can see like the amount of lock at the front there compared to the amount of lock at the front there. You know, it's absolutely crazy how much these can do. And a D4 is, you know, if you know RC cars, a D4 is not the best at getting the most lock. You can get other cars that go literally like 90 degrees, like an MST or a YD02. And there's many different rear-wheel drive cars to choose from. The main difference is the way that they drive. So all of them run gyros, or almost most of them run gyros, and appreciate the fact that this is my newbie information into it. So if you're thinking about purchasing rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, then you're probably 6 months away from where I am now. So I'm not in any respect a pro, and I'll admit that. But it's been an interesting curve to learn. You know, when you start to buy one of these kits, you're probably not going to buy a brushless setup a brushed setup, because the brushless setups are much better at power control, much smoother acceleration. You can give a really low throttle input and it'll still make the car spin the rear wheels, rather than kind of needing to put in maybe 20% power to get the rear wheels to start moving on a brushed motor. So they're a bit better at lower speeds. So you're going to want to buy a brushless setup to run one of these properly. You are going to want to buy a decent quality ESC. Most people go for the Toro, it's called, a 120 amp Toro. I went for 120 amp Hobbywing because it's a lot cheaper. There's pros and cons to it. Like I say, it's a big rabbit hole. A kit, unless you buy something like the MST kit at £350, you know, the ready to go kit, ready to race kit, then essentially you're going to have to buy all the different components that go in it. So it does start to add up very quickly. You know, this chassis is we got it for about £125 from RC Mart. Thanks very much, RC Mart. But you can now get the D5 in the UK, which is about £86 to £90, I believe. So an even cheaper chassis to a really good starter kit. And so far the reviews of that seem good. But I'm not here to review rear-wheel drive cars. I'm here to tell you the difference. So the main difference of these is the way they drive. The car will lock up like this and be sliding perfectly sideways, as they should do, as a rear-wheel drive car would do on the road, a much more realistic experience. As you initiate a turn, so you turn into a corner, the back end obviously starts to slide. The gyro automatically feels the slide and starts to turn into the slide, so the car will initiate and then continue to slide in that direction, and then you can control it with your throttle response and a little bit with the controller to get it to go where you want it to go. The gyro doing that initial very fast reaction time to help you turn-in. There's lots of guides about how to drive rear-wheel drive cars on the internet as well, so I'm sure you can watch some of those to get your starter off. But the point about this is that the way they drive is so different. They are mainly indoor circuit. So some people do use them outdoors, but I've also heard of some circuits, because the bottom of your car, if you drive it outdoors, gets all caught edges and ripped edges and damaged parts. Then when you go onto carpet, you can damage the carpets. So some places that are indoor carpets won't allow cars that have been used outdoors. Tyre wise, indoor, most people will specify a tyre. These are MST silver dots. A lot of places using carpet will specify those. If you go to somewhere that uses something like P-tile or different kinds of resin floors, they will tell you again that they'll have a certain tyre, which is why you often see people selling kits and they have 3 or 4 sets of wheels, because they'll have different sets of tyres for different circuits. But check out your geography, check out what's local to you, check out if anybody's running any places at community centres like we do in Lincoln, because if you haven't got anywhere local to go to, then you're either going to be using it outdoor and probably trashing quite an expensive car potentially, or you're going to be travelling a long distance. The nearest circuit to us is Slide House, which is an hour and 15-minute drive away, so that's quite a decent night out if you're going to go there, or NRD at Wakefield, and that's another sort of hour and 10 minutes to get to there as well. So they're both a decent distance away from us. So we were lucky that a few of us got into it in our area, and we set up our local community centre. But let's have a look at some of the footage about how the rear-wheel drive car drives, and you'll see straight away that you've got way more steering angle, way more drift angle, and it's also slower. You know, the cars are slower in general. It's more about the control of the car. It's more about getting the car to smoothly link turns from corner to corner. I've definitely learned a lot. I'm definitely getting better. I'm definitely not good by any standard yet, but I'm definitely getting better. But here's some footage of rear-wheel drive, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the two. The island. Oh, yeah, a wobble then, only like 3 inch deep. Okay, and then just to compare that, here's some footage of the Bonsai in 4-wheel drive, so you can see the difference between the two. So 4-wheel drive on a hardwood floor appears to be ace fun. And it doesn't appear to mark it either, which is pretty good. And so that's it really. You know, the decision for me, if you were getting into it between the 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive, is exactly this. Really, realistically, mainly outdoor use for the 4-wheel drive, and mainly a beginner car, something to smash around with your friends, something to have a giggle with, but maybe not something to take too seriously. Although people do modify them a lot and have fun modifying them, and that's fantastic, but it isn't something you would compete with and something you would practice to become incredibly good with, like you would a rear-wheel drive car. Remember, this is my opinion of a newbie, so you know, if you really love those, then I don't mean to offend in any respect. Rear-wheel drive, obviously rear-wheel drive costs much more money to get into, and the cars are more expensive. Generally, you're looking at about sort of £100 to £150 once you've bought a battery and bits and bobs. Realistically, once you've bought for the 4-wheel drive car a battery, a shell to make it look nicer, maybe a different motor, a couple of other bits, you're probably going to spend realistically about £200 in the UK. Rear-wheel drive car, much more money, investment. You're probably going to spend about £200 to get moving, just to buy some cheap parts for it, but realistically you're going to spend more like £300 to £400 on all the parts. When you look at all the details of it, things like a motor is £50, an ESC is about £80, batteries about £30 each, gyros about £20, chassis about £100, fans and things to keep the motor running cool so you can run for longer, tyres, wheels, shells, it all adds up. So realistically, I would say you're probably going to spend about £300 to £350, which is why the MST ones, the ready to race ones, do look good, but then you will still want to tune that, so you will still get that and want to modify that more and spend more money. So it is quite a rabbit hole, the rear wheel drive, but do keep it in perspective. You know, a friend of mine, Dave, he runs a D4, he still runs it brushed, and he still runs NIMs rather than lipos, and just has a simple shell for it and so on, and has recycled a lot of parts and managed to do it, and he's probably done it for under £200. Is the experience as good? I think he would agree that he'd probably want to spend a bit more if he could, or if he was bothered to make his car drive better, but that's the rabbit hole. Driving experiences, much more technical on the rear wheel drive, you know, much more control involved, trying to be incredibly accurate with it, trying to be really smooth. Rear wheel, your 4-wheel drive is much more like a smasher, so it's much more of a car park, have fun with your mates type affair. So you can kind of see that if you were going to get into this as a newbie, really my thoughts are, have a really good think to yourself about what you're going to do. Have a really good think about yourself about, am I going to just do this with mates and not bothered and have a laugh, or am I going to fall down the rabbit hole? Because realistically, I probably spent, you know, a decent amount of money making this car up, when realistically I don't use it so much anymore, whereas I use this one with friends on a weekly or fortnightly basis, and I probably should have just gone rear wheel drive from the start. A lot of people would say that to me on groups, so don't invest in that, go rear wheel drive straight away and so on. You look at the money and you think, oh, I can't invest that money to begin with, but actually I've ended up spending more money buying those two parts, and that's not what it's about. I've had a lot of good fun, with my friends, but I think all in all, having driven both, I would go rear wheel drive straight away. I think one of the things you could do to recommend if you're trying to get into it before you spend your hard-earned cash, and I know that's very easy with internet clicks to just click this and buy that, but I will get on your local Facebook group such as RC Drift UK, or there's an NRD Drift group. Get on there, have a chat to some members, see if there's anyone going out with some car park smashers. There's also an FTX Bonsai group on Facebook as well. Get on there, see if people are going out, and then just try and meet up with anyone who's local. Have a go. I know that's hard during COVID stuff, but if it's outdoors, you sanitise controllers and things, I'm sure you can do it safely. So FTX Bonsai, get involved on the group, get involved and see if you can find people outdoors. Go and have a giggle, go and have a go before you buy. Rear wheel drive one, see if any of the tracks are open. Again, many people are so helpful in the RC scene. I would totally happily meet people at an event and let them have a go in my car to realise which one they want to invest their money in. But my advice, if you think you're going to fall down that rabbit hole and you think you're going to fall in love with it, go rear wheel drive.